try to make me feel embarrassed. Their attempts have been in vain, but they tell me I'm the one with problems. They're the ones who are insane, so for those who want but won't admit it, you shouldn't feel like that, cause you could be 20% cooler and 10 seconds slower. Shout it out. I'm proud to be a brony. Yeah, yeah. I'm proud to be a brony.
Hello mares and gentlecolts, my fellow bronies. Welcome to a special edition of I'm Brony and I'm Proud. I've got Patrick and Savannah from the Shake-Ups in Ponyville with me. G'day Patrick and Savannah.
Good day, hello.
How's it going, guys?
Great, everything is fantastic. How are you?
Good. It's a bit hot here in Australia, but I'm bearing with it.
It's snowing here right now in the States.
So Patrick and Savannah, how did you guys become bronies?
Well,
I guess I'll go first because our stories are sort of intertwined since we're married. So I had a friend who recommended the show to me. I'd been reticent to watch it. It was popular when I was a girl, one of the, the original incarnation. I wasn't particularly into it. I was sort of a tomboy, and not really into it. It was sort of a girls' show, and I thought it was a little vapid, and so forth. And so when the new show came out, I wasn't particularly interested, but my friend, who had been a gender studies major at one point and was very interested in sociology, sort of pressed and insisted that I would be interested in the themes and that they were doing some really new and intriguing things and challenging gender norms. And these were interesting, full characters, that feminism was coming into play, that they were actually interesting role models, that there was better sociological perspectives, that I would find the storytelling more engaging. And so I was pressed and finally watched it and really enjoyed it instantly. And so I fell in love with it pretty quickly. And I go to a lot of conventions. I'm a big Star Trek fan. I happened to be just a general gaming convention. I wore my Fluttershy cosplay. And at that convention, I saw Patrick playing in one of his other bands.
yes, I play in a band that plays songs about Star Trek called 5-Year Mission, and Savannah came to my show dressed as Fluttershy. That's actually how we met. First time I ever saw her, she was dressed as Fluttershy. And then some time went by, we started dating and such, and then she decided to show me an episode from the first season of Friendship is Magic, Swarm of the Century, Paris Sprites episode, because it closely models the Star Trek Trouble with Tribbles episode. We watched that one, and I just loved it.
Because we both love Star Trek, and I was making the comparison that as far as being morality plays, My Little Pony was very much like that, and that he might be interested in it.
Yeah, and so we watched that episode, and I really enjoyed it, and so I went back and just started watching them all from the beginning. We've seen every episode now.
And you've written songs
about many of the episodes and many of the characters, thing that we've kind of gotten deeper and deeper into. The other thing that I noticed was the wit about the show, which I really didn't expect, because I remember, a lot of the early My Little Pony incarnations. I was always a big Transformers fan, back in the day, which was sort of the brother property with Hasbro to the sister My Little Pony, and so I didn't expect the wit and the humor, and I'm a big anime fan, and I also loved the Powerpuff Girls, which of course Lauren Faust got her start with.
That also was a good argument point for me, and Lauren Faust's involvement helped me get him to watch it because he's a Powerpuff Girls fan.
Pop culture runs through your veins.
Oh yes.
So guys, talk to me how the Shake-Ups came about. How did you guys begin?
I started the Shake-Ups. This was back in the mid-2000s, and the idea was that I wanted to do an indie pop sort of project. I was very into a lot of the bands at the time doing sort of atmospheric pop songs, sort of that were a little bit 60s based, The Shins and Death Cab for Cutie, bands of that ilk, Rogue Wave. I decided to work on a project, got some friends together, and we worked on that, and we self-released 3 full-length albums over the course of the next 5 or so years. And the lineup kind of changed because I had moved several times. I moved from the Midwestern United States out to California, and I moved back, and I basically just would wrangle in, all the best musician friends I had at the time to make these projects. We played local clubs and state fairs and all kinds of things of that sort. We kind of evolved from a sort of an indie acoustic-y atmospheric band into a power pop band, because that is another of my big influences. Just very melodic melodic rock and roll songs with lots of sing-along hooks and harmonies, but also with loud guitars, and power of rock and roll. It seems to me there's a lot of bands of that style around the world that they're churning out these great songs that you just don't hear, in the mainstream, even though to me they seem to have all the necessary elements for like a hit song. Then we sort of hit upon this idea. We had been getting heavily into My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, and I thought our power pop sound really worked well with the feel of the show and the characters in the show. How it actually came about was a little bit by accident. It was kind of right around the time we were really getting heavily into Friendship is Magic. Our drummer's wife helps run the My Little Pony Fair and Convention, an annual collector's convention that's been going on for years and years. She asked us to come and play at this convention.
Well, first she just asked us if we wanted to go, and then
Right.
Because she knew we liked the show, and then it went from there.
And then she said, well, we talked about having, some live entertainment. We've never had a band before, but maybe you guys would want to play.
Maybe the kids would like it.
Right. And so we thought that would be really fun. I've wanted to do an all-ages sort of project for a long time, and this seemed like a good way to do it. Then we thought about it more, and we thought, well, we don't want to just show up to this My Little Pony Fair and play as a regular rock band. That doesn't seem to really be in the spirit of the event. What I did was I changed up the lyrics to a few of our existing songs and made them about pony characters.
There was no time, and it was like...
Yeah, this was done very quickly, over maybe like a month tops maybe. We re-recorded some parts to songs.
That's right.
We actually made a little EP release, which was the first Shake-Ups in Ponyville. We just went to this thing and we played at the My Little Pony Fair and Convention as the Shake-Ups in Ponyville, and everybody just loved it.
And we were really excited about the show, and then he decided, well, he didn't just want to change lyrics to songs he'd written before, he wanted to write original songs specifically about the episodes. And so as we were watching the then new season, he was writing songs as we went, and so on and so forth. And somewhere in here, Bitsy, who's female vocalist, whose pretty voice you hear on most of the recordings, she had moved to Pennsylvania, and all of a sudden Patrick had opportunities to play at children's events, and he was shy to play without a woman there to child wrangle and be comfortable with children. So I was going along. I have a background in education and so forth, and I was going along. I was originally just a child wrangler, face painting and doing fun activities with the children, because we played birthday parties and charity events and things with children at first before we knew about the Brony community, really, even we were playing for children. I was going along and doing that, and I was being Bitsy's kind of understudy, and slowly but surely I was assimilated. It was just like, just do this one other little thing. You just, you took piano, here, play this keyboard part. Now I'm officially in the band.
Awesome. The conversions continue, and it's even conversions even with the band, within the band. That's amazing. Yes, join the Shake-Ups. Yes.
Just come along, just do an intro, just stand up and say, do your little Fluttershy. Yay!
You know what we could use on this song? We could use Glockenspiel. Have you ever played the Glockenspiel before?
Would you like to? Okay, I'll play the Glockenspiel. And then I was in a band.
So that's what took you over the line, Savannah. It was the Glockenspiel.
I was seduced by the dark power of the Glockenspiel. It sounded so magical.
I have to ask, your poodle, is she more like Angel or more of one of the more cooperative animals that Fluttershy looks after on the show?
He's actually our Spike.
Yes, you're more of a Spike. He's more of a beta male. He's a good boy. He's a nice guy. He's wearing his Darth Vader hoodie, though, right now.
We will combine all the fandoms before this interview is complete.
I'm gradually rewatching those couple of seasons. The one I've been able to get on DVD, the episode where Pinky goes crazy.
My favorite.
What's better than Pinky going crazy? Twilight going crazy. Oh my god, that was when she had nothing to report to Princess Celeste.
That one's wonderful.
And who saves Twilight at the end of the day? Spike, of course.
Mm-hmm.
That was a really good one.
What punishment would have Celestia, dealt to Twilight? Because what she did was pretty bad stuff. In the lamest way possible, it was like, oh my goodness, I need to abuse my power so I can write a report on French.
When you're an overachieving student, I think that makes sense. I remember one time I don't even remember why I was so worked up about something. I had written a paper and it wasn't done to my satisfaction, or I was late for something, or I don't remember, but I remember thinking, but if I crash my car on the way there, and not so much that I get really hurt, but just so that, I have an accident report, and then I realized that was insane and I should just turn it in. I think I got a B- and it was really quite fine. And crashing my car was not an option that should have been considered, but I was sleepy. at the time.
Is it fair to say that you're sort of the manager of the band?
No, Patrick is pretty much band leader. He's Kirk, I'm Spock. The thing's kind of his baby, but I do a lot of stuff as far as the theatricality, characters and getting our costumes and doing activities when we play for children and getting things together as far as that and organizing, getting art put together for promotion and so forth.
Savannah does a lot with our presentation. I do more with the actual creative work, although we have been collaborating more on that lately as well.
That's true. I wrote some lyrics. I did my Mod Pie beat poem. Because I do write. I'm an essayist, and we both love to write.
I do love to draw, so I actually, before I was into music, I would sit and draw for hours and hours, and eventually music sort of overtook all of my time, and so these days I don't do much of it anymore.
So we have very Venn diagram of hobbies.
We do.
that we sort of collaborate well together.
Awesome. So Savannah, is rock song your baby?
That was me. My father was a geologist, so stringing together a lot of rock puns was very fun for me. That was something I wrote kind of as a joke. And then Patrick decided it needed to be a song on the album.
This may sound weird, but it's actually one of my favorites on the album.
Oh, yay! Oh.
Interesting way to end the album as well. Do you keep in mind the order, or is it generally the order from the show from like most recent episodes and then backtracking that way?
I'm very mindful about that sort of thing, the logistics of the album and how the songs fit together. I usually try to vary the mood from track to track a little bit, not have too many songs that are in the same key or the same tempo next to each other. I've always been told that I'm good at making mix CDs, so it's kind of applying that talent to our own music. It doesn't really have so much to do with the order of episodes or characters necessarily. When we did our first album, Main Event, we started out with the Pinkie Pie song, Pinkie Vibrations. Seemed like a good way to kick off the album, with the right tone. And so yeah, it's really just been a matter of what fits together the best and how the transitions sound going from one song to the next. And I agree with you. I think rock song works. I tried it in several different spots. I loved the song and I really wanted to include it, but I wasn't sure where it fit in. And then it just came to me that, of course, it should just be this little bit at the end that you don't expect to come in, and then it's just totally charming when it comes in. And if you're, of course, listening to the album over again on repeat, it's great because it just stops and immediately goes back into the beginning, which I like.
Fun fact on Rock Song, the clicking percussion you hear is me actually clicking a bunch of geodes together. There's actual rocks in the rock song.
Yeah, lots of rock percussion.
Yes, it's all clicking together random rocks from my rock collection.
With the new album, my personal favorites are the first and last track. Everything in between is awesome, by the way. The album starts strong and finishes strong, which is really great, so good work, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The worst possible thing is really catchy. It's amazing how you can extract this hidden potential that comes from the dialogue on the show, and even, well, it's not just the dialogue, but we see the scenes of how Rarity plays it out and produce it into a new form of media.
I'm terribly fascinated with Patrick's brain and the wonderful job he does of watching the shows and synthesizing all of these different snippets of dialogue and nuances of character into these catchy little songs. I'm always impressed to see how he does that.
It's enjoyable for me to, like you said, to just take the little bits, all the best bits of what I really enjoy about the show and distill them into something in another form of media, as you said. It's probably the most rewarding thing about it for me, is to create something new from this thing that we love and enjoy. Both of the albums were done very quickly, in fact.
And when he says studio, he means our coffee table where the recording board is, and our basement and Steve's basement, the drummer, and Bitsy's closet are the places where we've recorded all of this stuff.
The band is spread out geographically. A few years ago, before we were doing the Pony music, we would get everybody together in the room and try to record live in the room together, but that's not possible really anymore. Our drummer lives a little over an hour away from where we live, and our female vocalist lives in Pennsylvania, which is about 9 hours away. What I've been doing for these projects was basically the drummer and I would get together and we would rehearse and record our parts together instrumentally, and then we would add all the other little parts in as we went. I was actually amazed at how well we were able to put the songs together in a short period of time.
When you're writing the songs, Patrick, did they come to you when you were actually watching the episode for the first time, or did they come afterwards?
There's a variety of ways. As far as the content of the songs goes, sometimes something will occur to me while I'm watching it, but usually it will be something where after I've watched an episode and something about it sticks with me and I want to go back and revisit it, or there's a particular idea or character from a song that struck me a certain way that I wanted to explore. And so that's pretty much how the content comes about in the songs. Musically, I'll have a few progressions, chord progressions, and maybe a melody that I put together, and maybe the way it sounds will sort of remind me of a certain character or a certain instance from the show, and I'll kind of write a hook around it and then flesh it out more with the content of whatever that happens to be. But a lot of the time I'll have a lyrical idea and try and, fit it in with a piece of music that I have, or sometimes I'll have a piece of music with a melody, and then I'll try to figure out what best would fit into that from, what I'm writing about. So there's no right or wrong way. I try to let it happen organically, because I feel like if you try to pin it down too much, it's like, killing the goose that laid the golden egg.
And we don't want that. And I like the word you were using there, content. I have to ask, in relation to YouTube, I discovered you guys through a shared post from Equestria Daily of
the worst possible thing.
Oh, outstanding. Of all the tracks on the new album, it just comes across as such a hit, and it's probably a great way to get people introduced into the group, if not already. So, were the songs released on YouTube first, or otherwise online?
Basically, the way it would work is we would record an album, and maybe we'd have an idea of a song or two that we really wanted to get out sooner rather than later. In the case of the most recent album, we put out the song Princess of the Night first, partially because we thought it was one of the stronger songs that we really wanted people to hear. It has a pretty instant hook to it, but also it's a little different than what we've done before, and we wanted to get that out there. And also it was for Nightmare Nights, which was, recently, and we wanted to get the song out, whereas the album wouldn't have been released in time for that. Generally, we'll have an album's worth of songs, and then we will maybe pick one or two, put out either before the album's released or right around the same time, and then we would kind of pick and choose among those songs and put one out every 2 or 3 months after that, just to have something new out there for people to check out.
I want to take this opportunity. I want to say how much I love Flash Sentry song.
Oh, thanks.
I have never seen Flash Gordon the movie, but I've seen the references. I've even seen the music video, the Queen music video.
Oh, right. I'm sure you've heard the song, at least.
Flash! Oh! Oh my god, that was it. Oh, yeah. Oh.
I love Queen, so.
He can sing a mean Freddie Mercury. It's impressive.
One of my other bands at the Starbase Indie Convention, 5-Year Mission, played with this Klingon band, and we did a duet of Under Pressure. I sang the Freddie Mercury part, and the Klingon guy from the other band sang the David Bowie part. So
I geeked out. It was pretty great.
Man, oh my goodness. Oh, I'm geeking out there. Oh my goodness. Stallion, that's a great track, because Shining Armor is like, well, it even comes across as just a bit of meat in the show.
He does. Well, I mean, he's the strongest male character that we've seen, but he still tends to always get pushed aside so his little sister can save the day.
It's surreal too, in this day and age, after growing up in a time when we were, struggling to find effectual, female characters buried in the back of male-dominated shows, that I'm looking at a show going like, I could really love to see a strong male character.
Yeah. In the male-dominated shows, there was always one strong female character.
There's always, there's always someone, and we want to celebrate the positive male characters in the show.
I read My Little Pony Friends Forever, and they had an issue with Twilight and Shining Armor, and it's like in the beginning of it, Cadence has had to go off somewhere, princess stuff, and he's left to look after the Crystal Empire. There's a whole bunch of stuff. There's business and political issues that he's working with these advisors, and it's like quite an amusing scene. It's like, oh wow, finally we see him doing something.
He is a capable character. He's kind of like Angel from Buffy. It's like Angel had superpowers, and eventually he has his own show and can handle himself. But of course, at that beginning of Buffy, where Buffy is, you're establishing Buffy as a hero, of course, he's this really strong, powerful character that you always have to find excuses for him to be disempowered in some way,
or for him to have to be
out, or
him to have to be saved.
So that's kind of funny. That's how he feels to me. I don't feel like it's not that he's not cool. It's just he.
It's easy to forget. He did create that huge magic bubble around.
Oh, that's a cool power.
That was great, definitely.
Can't believe I pretty much almost forgot that. It's like, well, yeah. He's like, well, yeah. He did create this huge bubble of energy.
Kind of a cool power.
That was one of the points in the song that we wrote too, just about his name is what his power is, which he's basically shielding people from harm.
Oh yeah, Shades of Maud. Oh,
You like the mod songs.
I do like the mod songs for some reason. I love the mod songs. It's just that episode she came across as being so cool.
Completely different from any other character on the show, I think, is also the main thing, just the contrast.
Because you don't have any introverts. Because you can't have any introverts when it's a show about social skills, because they would in their rooms reading a book.
Well, Fluttershy does some of that.
That's true. But you know what I mean? Like, it's harder to have equal representation of introverted characters when the show is what it is. I liked her a lot. That particular song's kind of funny. I wrote my silly beat poem that you liked, and the boys were trying to come up with some sort of musical interlude to kind of pepper at the beginning or end of it, just to what ended up being the little rock noises and just that little tiny bit of music that you hear in between the stanzas of the poem. But they were messing around and they came up with this jam, and it's the song that is now the Shades of Maud. And so he had this jam and I had this poem, and they didn't go together, and so Patrick wrote
So we just split them up.
another song. And it was one of those things where I was like, oh, that's okay, we should use yours is better, like we'll just use mine for something silly later. And then he put them both on.
I like spoken word stuff, and I really wanted to do a loungy tune, so it was fun doing a Richard Cheese kind of vocal for that. So that was the fun part for me on that one.
I totally get that. Oh my goodness, yeah. I guess for me, the king of spoken voice is, of course, we know from Star Trek, William Shatner.
Yes.
We do have all the William Shatner albums, so I was specifically Ken Nordine.
Yeah. Mhm.
If you want to have a good chuckle, you should look up. He's a mid-century poet.
He did a lot of commercial
Jazz
work
musician.
in like the 50s and 60s.
50s and 60s, and
But he released this album. It was basically a bunch of commissioned pieces about colors, and it was for a paint company. He put out these little like minute to 2 minute snatches of spoken word things with music, like jazz music backing him up, for like all these different colors, and they put it out as an album in the last few years. It was put out with all these extra tracks, and each track is just the name, is just a color name. And then he has this whole long spiel about what this color means and the philosophy of the color or the character of it. It's a really interesting album.
I think you would actually really enjoy it, and I strongly recommend it to you. I think you would be very amused.
Have you ever heard the William Shatner album Has Been?
No.
Yeah, it was co-written and produced with Ben Folds, who's another big influence of ours. It's actually a legitimately very good album. It's not even just like a kishy sort of album. It's actually really good. They have a lot of great guests on it. There's actually a duet between William Shatner and Henry Rollins on it that is hilarious.
Some of his other stuff is more, it's playful and it's entertaining as performance art, but it's not necessarily musically particularly what it's about. But we really like that one album because the music is really good. Even if Shatner wasn't on it, it would just be good music. And then Shatner's actually very entertaining on it also. So it's like icing.
We've never tried doing any remixes of our songs before, but we've had a few people ask us about it, and so
we'll see how that goes. We've been very shy about it because, of course, we very much like our real instruments and our, late Beatles-esque sort of
we're old school
sound.
Oh, it's fun to listen to. It's great stuff. We just
appreciate that stuff too, so we thought it would be fun to mess around and see.
This is a curiosity question. How did the track Samurai Applejack come about?
That was never supposed to be on the album. That was us playing around.
When we first got into this, we were aware that there was an adult fan base for the show, but we weren't aware of the extent of the music that was being made by the fan base, even until maybe after we had made our first full-length main event. We really weren't aware of the size and amount of Brony musicians. We probably would have been a lot more nervous to go into it had we been aware of it. Samurai Applejack was one that was made very differently from most of the other songs, which are normally worked up as band songs with a group of people with instruments in a room. Whereas with Samurai Applejack, that started out as me doing some parts on sequencers and putting them together and just making basically a fun electronic sounding track. I had done something sort of similar to that on the first album, Main Event, with the song From the Future Next Tuesday, which was also all electronic. And basically I had that, and then I used a guitar synth along with it, so I actually played some of the melodies on that. But when you listen to it, it sounds as if it's, something created electronically. And so Samurai Applejack was sort of my second attempt to do something along those lines. And we weren't sure, that it was going to be an Applejack song at that point. We didn't really know what it would be or if it would be on the album. And we just started having fun with it and experimenting in our home studio.
Eating apples,
Crunching
noises.
making the sound effects and such. And with Main Event, I'd make sure I had a song for each of the main 6 characters. I think it's important since, everybody has their favorites to try to include something about those characters. Did the similar thing with the new album, Pony Power Pop. We pretty much epitomized the Applejack character on the first album with the Apple song. So we thought this time around we would do something completely different and off the wall. And I think we achieved it with Samurai Applejack.
The idea was that she was having a dream and that she was going to wake up at the end and be confused that she had this dream about fighting fruit ninjas and so forth. So.
And we also enjoy Samurai Jack.
Of course.
I actually thought also another of our favorite animes is Cowboy Bebop. And there's an episode of that where there's a character who wants to be a cowboy, but then at the end he decides instead of being a cowboy, he's going to be a samurai.
Space samurai.
Cowboy Bebop, I think even to this day, still trying to wrap my head around it. But I guess from what I've seen is that basically all the planets are sort of fairly colonized in the solar system. Is that right?
Yes, all terraformed planets and so forth, but in our solar system. You should watch the anime. It's pretty short.
The TV series,
The series, because I think it's much stronger than the movie's fine, but you might enjoy it.
Cool stuff.
On our official site, theshakeups.net, we have a listing of where you can get the album, and we also have a store on the page as well. You can get it through iTunes and Amazon, CD Baby, pretty much all of the main purveyors of music on the interwebs.
So listeners, make sure you check out Pony Power Pop, the newest album from the Shake-Ups in Ponyville, as well as Main Event and of course their other EPs. Thank you very much guys for being on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks so much.
Take care guys.
You
Thank
too.
you. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.
This has been I'm Brony and I'm Proud. Lucky Knight speaking. Thanks for listening. Remember to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at IBAIPshow. Proud to be a Brony. Intro and outro by Black Griffin. My Little Pony, friendship is magic.
My little pony. I used to wonder what friendship could be.